John Stossel, how you been?
Good. Still here.
One of America's most outspoken journalists reflects on the State of the Union and what you might call the second H of President Trump. It's John Stossel, Give Me Liberty, a brand new primetime special coming to NewsNation. And NewsNation anchor Connell McShane joins us with a preview. Hello, Connell.
Hey, Rosie, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Let's talk about this special. Sounds like a fair amount of work and a lot of interesting conversation.
That's what we like, right? Interesting conversation. You don't want those boring guests when you're doing TV, right? And John's anything but boring. So I actually worked with John for a short time at Fox Business Network. I think a lot of people remember his work at ABC News on 2020, and he's always been known for presenting things in a different way. And to your point coming in, he is outspoken. He is a libertarian. But for years, 20, 30 years ago, a lot of people would look at him, even inside the business, and say, you know what, John, you're a little bit off track here. Your views are, quote unquote, out there. Well, now what we see, and one of the reasons we wanted to spend some time, and we will at the special premiere 6 p.m. on Sunday, giving John an hour to present his views, is that, they're being put in place now by real governments. Ours, for example, Argentina, where they have a libertarian president, another example that comes up in the special. But now, here's the catch. John doesn't agree with what all of those governments are doing. Put Argentina aside. I'm talking about the United States. So you might think, President Trump's trying to cut government waste. Yeah, he agrees. He's cutting back or cutting down or clamping down on so-called DEI. John actually agrees. He has a reason. He explains. But he disagrees with the president on other issues. Immigration is one. He'll explain. Tariffs. Boy, he's not a fan of tariffs. Again, he'll explain. So he's an unpredictable, thought-provoking guy, I would say.
Oh, interesting. So it sounds like not only is it going to be cool to hear his views, but how the target has moved over time as to what was mainstream, what wasn't, and what's become, something more conversational or being put into place currently. So what do you think audiences will learn about John Stossel along the way?
That he's open to changing his mind. He started off, he says, and the way he kind of puts it is, kind of like everybody else, you used the term mainstream, a quote-unquote mainstream reporter. He loved regulation, he said, early in his career, and he was doing all these consumer-related stories where, the government is there to help. And then he says, through his experience, his reporting, the people he interviewed, the people he met, he changed. And now he thinks government is best when governs least. Now, you may agree with that. You may disagree with that. But what I would say is tune in and listen to that, because it's always good to get these views that don't align with yours. And I guarantee that you'll hear some stuff on Sunday that doesn't align with what you think, unless you're just 100% libertarian. I'm sure there are some people that agree with John on everything. But I think it's more interesting if you don't, right? If you think, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way on immigration and why he thinks what he thinks. But I agree with him that we should cut waste in government, and spending money on these crazy things is just that. It's crazy. So I think the unpredictability is something you'll learn, and the evolution, that the ideas we have years ago are not necessarily going to be the ideas we have many years later.
I'm really liking that idea, actually, because sometimes, Connell, I think we start to think, old dog, new tricks, can't learn anything new. The fact that our brains can still be squishy and malleable and take in new information and do new things, I think is really interesting. So I want to hear what surprised you most during your conversation.
I think his thoughts on President Trump surprised me most. Why? Well, because when we started the conversation, he was in one place, and I thought, the whole point of this, as I said earlier, is going to be that your ideas from years ago are now being put in place by political leaders, including President Trump. And he was going down the list of the things he agrees with. And then we get to the end of the conversation, and I find out he thinks Trump's a bully and he doesn't like him personally. I said, so you agree with him, but you disagree, but you don't like him personally. No, I also disagree on policy. And I thought his thoughts on tariffs, I wasn't really that surprised by. He's a libertarian. He thinks all tariffs are a tax. But in particular, his conversation about a thorny issue right now, immigration, was interesting to me. So, without going into all the details of what he said, it's not like he thinks everybody should be allowed to flood into the country and, there should be no borders. No, he agrees with a lot of what Trump is doing at the borders or trying to do. But he has more nuance in the pros and cons of immigration policy, I would say, especially when it comes to the economy. What's the effect of what we're doing? How do we grow our economy? What role do immigrants play? And I think that's the nuanced conversation, that you can agree with some things, disagree with other things. And I guess I would say I was a little bit surprised by the way he put some of that.
And I think it's so cool that you as a reporter were the one who was able to get all these bits and pieces out of him. So I think the last word I'm going to use, just to hear what you have to say about it, is thought-provoking is what this hour should be.
I think so. Isn't that always what we're trying for, Rosie? Thought-provoking.
It sure is.
I mean, my daily show's on for like 3 hours a day. I always tell our producers, like, we shouldn't agree. Don't worry about it. You shouldn't agree with everything our guests are saying. You shouldn't disagree either, but you're going to see a little bit of it all. Like, they're giving us 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week. Let's talk. We have time. Let's talk about everything. And in this special, I think it's kind of a microcosm of that to some degree. And here's a guy that's a little different than the mainstream coming in and telling his story. Tune in, listen, you might learn something.
That sounds fascinating. I can't wait to check it out. Thank you so much, Connell, for your time.
Thank you. Good stuff, Rosie. Thank you.
Catch John Stossel, Give Me Liberty, on Sunday at 6 p.m. Central on NewsNation. To find your NewsNation channel, go to newsnationnow.com.